Hello and good morning to you. We are live from TVR World, Jakarta, Indonesia, and you are now watching our special report on Tanzanian President Samia Hassan's state visit to Indonesia. My name is Valerina Daniel.
And I'm Audrey Toyo, and this is most definitely an extraordinary day for it is the first visit of President Samia Hassan after President Joko Widodo's visit to Dar es Salaam of last year. And today in the studio, we also are joined with a special guest. So we have Mohammad Habib, a researcher at the Department of International Relations at CSIS Indonesia. Hello, good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Really good.
Very good today. And
Very excited to watch
right.
the visit.
Thank you for joining us today.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yes, and also who will be joining us on Zoom is Professor Aleksius Jemadu, who will be coming on very soon, International Relations Observer of Pelita Harapan University. So stay tuned for that today.
Yeah, but before we start our dialogue, we would like to introduce you to Tanzania more. So we're going to provide you with the country profile of Tanzania. Tanzanian President Samia Hassan is visiting Indonesia and is scheduled to meet President Joko Widodo in Bogor Presidential Palace on January 25th, which is today. And here is her brief profile.
Samia Suluhu Hassan is the first female president of Tanzania, assuming office on March 19, 2021, following the death of previous president John Magufuli. Samia is the sixth president of Tanzania. Before being elected as president, she served as Tanzania's first female vice president, following the 2015 general election and re-elected to a second term in 2020. Her previous roles in government include serving as Minister of State in the Vice President's office responsible for Union Affairs from 2010 to 2015 and Minister in the semi-autonomous government of her home region of Zanzibar from 2000 to 2010. Samia Suluhu Hassan has a background in public administration and economics. In 1986, she obtained a diploma in public administration from the Institute of Development Management, or IDM, now known as Zumbe University. In 1994, she earned a postgraduate diploma in economics at the University of Manchester in United Kingdom. In 2015, she obtained master's degree or MSc in Community Economic Development through a joint program between the Open University of Tanzania and the Southern New Hampshire University, United States. Her political career began in the early 2000s when she was elected as member of the Zanzibar House of Representatives for a special seat and appointed as minister by President Amani Karume. Over the years, she gained experience in different capacities, contributing to her eventual rise to the vice presidency.
Well, now that we've seen the background and profile of the country of Tanzania, why don't we have a closer look at the president, the first woman president of Tanzania, Her Excellency Samia Hassan. So Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan is currently visiting Indonesia as a reciprocal visit after a state visit to Tanzania by Indonesian President Joko Widodo in August of last year. Here is a brief profile of the two countries' bilateral cooperation.
Indonesia and Tanzania have been witnessing a remarkable strengthening of their bilateral relations since the two countries established their diplomatic relations. The deep-rooted friendship between Indonesia and Tanzania extends beyond the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1964 and can be traced back to the historic Asia-Africa Summit in 1955 and the founding of the Non-Aligned Movement in 1961. On June 22, 2023, Tanzania opened its embassy in Jakarta, a year before the two countries celebrated the 60th anniversary of their diplomatic relations. The embassy's inauguration took place during Tanzanian's senior diplomat Stergomena Tax's visit to Indonesia. tax, and her Indonesian counterpart Retno Marsudi also inaugurated the embassy shortly after a bilateral meeting at the latter's office. Indonesia first established diplomatic relations with Tanzania in 1964. According to the Foreign Affairs Ministry's official website, Indonesia opened its diplomatic representative in Tanzanian city of Dar es Salaam that year. The significance of the relationship between Indonesia and Tanzania was marked by the visit of President Joko Widodo to the country in August 2023. The Indonesian president visited Tanzania as a part of its trips to several African countries. During the visit, President Jokowi met with Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan to discuss several bilateral cooperation areas and to sign a memorandum of understanding to further promote bilateral cooperation. President Samia Hassan also mentioned during the meeting that the relationship between the two countries has deep historical roots. The founders of both countries, namely Mwalimu Julius Nyerere and President Sukarno, based the relationships on the spirit of Bandung. During his visit to Tanzania, President Jokowi pushed for the establishment of Preferential Trade Agreement or PTA, and this is seen as being able to further optimize the potential trade between the two countries. The bilateral trade between the two countries continues to increase from year to year. During the period between 2019 and 2022, the bilateral trade increased by 50%, reaching over $340. With the improved relations, Indonesia intends to export some other goods such as rubber tire, fertilizers, foods, and beverages. Indonesia's outbound investment in Tanzania also began to increase. PT Indeso Aroma, for instance, plans to expand its field distillation unit in Zanzibar and in mainland such as Tanga area, while state-owned company Pertamina also seeks to expand its presence and acquire majority shares in Mnazi Bay Block operation through its subsidiaries Morel and Prom. Hopefully, with the visit of Tanzanian president to Indonesia, the bilateral relations will continue to flourish and Tanzania will become Indonesia's major trading partner in Africa.
That was the profile between Indonesia and Tanzania's bilateral cooperations. And from that information, we also learned that this year is the 60th anniversary of bilateral cooperation between Indonesia and Tanzania. So this is also a remarkable achievement between two countries. And hopefully after this visit, we're going to see a more flourished cooperation between Indonesia and Tanzania. So now I'm going to ask a question, of course, to our guest already, Mas Habib. This is exciting because Samia Hassan is the first female president of Tanzania, right? So, and then this is also her first visit to Indonesia. So can you tell us what can we expect from this visit?
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely Indonesia and Africa have a long-standing relation since 1955, like the Asian African Conference. But I think it hasn't been explored, you know, well during like I think like the last several decades. And now, you know, we welcome like the president of Tanzania. I think like that could be a symbol. You know, Africa also looks Indonesia as you know, revival of, you know, Indonesia as a brother, Indonesia as a role model, like for African countries also. And I think like we also very much anticipate an increase of economic cooperation between the two countries, I suppose. Yeah.
And how do you see the current situation, like the current relationship or bilateral relationship between Indonesia and Tanzania? Anything that stands out to you in particular?
I think like in terms of, you know, Indonesia is interested in expanding like its market access. We are really looking forward to a non-traditional market. And I think like one of them is also Tanzania. So that's why I think President Joko Widodo visited Tanzania like last year one of four African countries President Jokowi visited. We also see like so many potentials, including like critical minerals. We know like from the previous presidential debate that there was a discussion about downstreaming of critical mineral, and I think this is also worth looking. I mean, in terms of areas of cooperation, Tanzania also has nickel mining and also like nickel resources. So I think this is very much potential to be explored.
Yes, and then as a matter of fact, during the visit to Tanzania, Indonesia and Tanzania has already signed a cooperation between Pertamina and also with the local or the national company of Tanzania in oil and gas as well. So do you see that today is also going to be one of the day they're going to have more concrete agreements in that field?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, this is very much anticipated, actually, you know, a strengthening relationship between Indonesia and Tanzania as a part of Global South. I mean, so many other countries have explored this idea of, you know, strengthening Global South cooperation, including India and China. I think Indonesia is somehow lagging behind the two countries in enhancing its relationship with African countries. I'm glad that you know, Tanzanian president now come to Indonesia and also like see Indonesia's potential as an alternative like to India and also China and also other great powers like the United States and the European countries. So yeah, we expect to have more concrete and practical agreements on this area actually.
And we do hope that those agreements and deliverables will be able to be achieved today, especially in the bilateral visit from President Samia Hassan. So we will go to a short commercial break. We have lots still to talk about with Mohammad Habib as well as later on with Professor Jemadu. So stay tuned on TVR World. We'll be back after a short break. Hello and welcome back to a special report in which today there will be a special state visit from President Samia Hassan to the Bogor Presidential Palace of President Joko Widodo. As we are waiting for the state visit, we are still in conversation with Mas Habib, researcher from CSIS. Thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yes, and yes, of course, we also have our another guest, Bapak Aleksius Jemadu, International Politic Analyst at the Pelita Harapan University via Zoom. Hello, Pak Alex. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Pak Alex.
Hello. Good morning.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning, Pak Alex. Okay, so we were talking about the economic cooperation between Indonesia and Tanzania right before the commercial break. So from your point of view, what do you think of this cooperation in the future? Is it going to be increasing significantly after this visit?
Yes, I believe that the visit of Tanzanian president to Indonesia can accelerate the bilateral cooperation between the two countries as they need each other in their economic development, which capitalizes on the abundant possession of natural resources and emerging networks of cooperation among the Global South. The only problem is that I would agree with Mr. Mohammed from CSIS that Indonesia is quite left behind in terms of the institutionalization of this cooperation in order to, you know, to facilitate and to strengthen the motivation of the private sectors, yeah, as they get all these incentives and facilitations from the government in order to, you know, to explore more trade and investment opportunities. So I very much hope that through this visit, the two countries can finalize their preferential trade agreement in order to accelerate, yeah, the bilateral economic cooperation, because there are a lot of potentials that need to be explored. And as the largest economy in ASEAN, Indonesia has much to offer to Tanzania, and Tanzania can also be a gate for us in order to use economic and trade opportunities in Africa. And, you know, Africa is a growing continent, and Indonesia needs to explore these trade opportunities in order to, you know, to fully recover from the pandemic crisis.
That's right.
And Alexius, you said before that one of the
Yes.
challenges, as you agreed with Mas Habib, is that Indonesia is still left behind. What are some solutions or some ways that you believe that Indonesia can take in order for us to finalize our institutionalization as well as be ahead of the game?
Yeah, you see that, as I mentioned earlier, the institutionalization of it. So they need to agree what incentives can be given to the private sectors in order to create more certainties in the future. And the second thing is that Indonesia is also competing with other ASEAN countries to, you know, to build access to this growing market in Africa. So I believe that there is a momentum at the moment in order to substantiate these networks of cooperation among the global south, and Tanzania is one of important actor in the global south, and Indonesia needs to strengthen its bilateral relations with the countries in Africa. And I believe that President Joko Widodo is very much aware of that. Yeah, based on his visit last year to 4 countries of Africa, and this time I believe that they are going to come up with more concrete things to do in the future in terms of trade and investment, because Tanzania is also known to have natural resources like
Yep.
Indonesia, and maybe in the future our state enterprise like Pertamina can increase also its presence in Africa in order to explore the benefits from the natural resources over there.
So yeah, so we know from your point of view and also from Mas Habib that there are a lot of potentials to build more
That's true,
cooperation
yes.
between Tanzania and Indonesia. But furthermore to that question, I would like to know more what kind of field that we should be prioritized more on increasing the bilateral cooperation between Indonesia and Tanzania, because you already said there are a lot of potential. So from Pa Alex first, maybe you can say one or two field that we should prioritize more.
Yeah, you know that if you go and see the statistics of the trade of 2 countries, the 2 countries already know what commodities they need to expand. Yeah, in the trade in the future. So focus on those commodities, and I believe that they can expand and increase the trade opportunities. Yeah, especially after they have these preferential trade agreements, because that is what have been done by other ASEAN countries, and Indonesia is quite is a latecomer. Yeah, the, that's why there's a lot of things that need to be done in the future. Yeah, to see how Indonesia can you know, activate the private sector, to see what Indonesia can do in order to expand its access to this non-traditional market.
All right. So, okay, so we also know, right, from commodities point of view, that means we know that Indonesia's export is high to Tanzania, especially
That's true.
in palm oil industry. So, Mas Habib, do you also agree with that? We should prioritize more on that, commodities.
Yeah, actually, I am on the same pitch with Alex with regards to we should focus on one or two. I mean, like instead of so many like areas of cooperation, especially about critical mineral. You know, critical mineral today is, I think, like very tempting, very tempting, like to many countries around the world for renewable energy, energy transition, or also like technology to some extent. And I think like this is an area, if Indonesia is consistent and also working with Tanzania, we can be like the hub for like energy transition and also like the technology somehow. And with regards to palm oil, yeah, I agree. But I think like Indonesia-Tanzania trade relations have been too concentrated on this, palm oil sector. I think we should diversify and we should look and also appreciate other potentials that Tanzania has, including sometimes Indonesia is trapped. We only see other countries as whether like it's about the market size, whether about whether they can provide investment for our countries, but not for other issues like whether like they can be a part of our supply chain, for example. So we need to expand our point of view with regards to economic diplomacy also in the future and appreciate Tanzania more.
So you're looking at more of an eagle's eye view, or kind of like the
Right.
big picture in which Indonesia can further expand and develop the relationship, not only in one particular narrow field, but also what can it do, I guess, for a more sustainable relationship, right, for Indonesia and Tanzania. How likely do you think that those things are going to be discussed or put into the deliverables and results from this bilateral meeting today?
I think I also have like a reasonable doubt with regards to like the continuity or the sustainability of these relations, because like Indonesia is in a presidential election cycle, so we also anticipate whether like the next president will also have the same commitment to enhance its relationship with African countries. So in terms of the sustainability, I believe like Tanzania is looking forward for Indonesia's active role in Africa, but also we anticipate like this outcome of the presidential election and also like the foreign policy vision of the next president.
And that will, I guess we have to wait for the next round to see whether this will be a sustainable relationship. And going to Professor Jemadu, what do you think is also your insights on whether this relationship with Tanzania and Indonesia can be sustainable beyond this bilateral cooperation that is signed today?
Yeah, you see that when we build our trade bilateral cooperation with Tanzania, countries like Tanzania, the good thing is that we don't have these difficulties like what we are facing with European Union, and so we are on the same level with Tanzania, and that is easier to to substantiate higher trade cooperation in the future, and not many conditions are imposed upon us like what European Union has done or other Western countries. And that is the starting point of this global South networks, and we need to increase our cooperation with African countries, and there's no reason why we should stay the same and don't really see the opportunities that are at hand. Yeah, and based on what the Indonesian government has done in the past, we can accelerate this cooperation to the benefits of the two countries.
Yes. Speaking about economic cooperation, we also learned that today the president of Tanzania, Samia Hassan, will bring 3 ministers and a huge business delegations to Indonesia. So I think from this situation, we can learn that they're going to talk more about the economic cooperation during the bilateral meeting. But before we continue our dialogue, we will see the situation in Istana Bogor or Bogor Palace at the moment, where the visit is going to take place later on today. At the moment, we can see that the situation in Bogor Palace is pretty much getting ready for the visit. So we can see at the moment the TNI personnel are standing on their positions and ready to welcome the President of Tanzania, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan. So President Tanzania, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, is currently on a 3-day official visit to Indonesia from January 24 to 26, 2024. She will be accompanied by 3 ministers and 131 business delegations. And then it is also scheduled to meet with the President to speak more on the bilateral cooperations.
And at the same time, there will also be several ministers that will be present at this visit, accompanying President Joko Widodo, which is the Foreign Affairs Ministers, the Minister of Health, Ministers of Public Housing and Public Works, Ministers of Investment, as well as the Ambassador of Indonesia to Tanzania, and the Director General of the Asia Pacific and Africa from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Langkah tegap maju. Jalan. 2 kali haluan kanan jalan 4. Gerak. Henti. Gerak.
And that was the situation from the Bogor Palace in West Java, Indonesia. But before we continue our conversation with our guests in the studio, and we are going to now provide you more information about Tanzania. Tanzania is a country in East Africa within the African Great Lakes region. The following is a brief profile of the country and its bilateral relations with Indonesia.
The name Tanzania was created as a clipped compound of the names of two states that were unified to create the country Tanganyika and Zanzibar. Tanzania borders Uganda to the north, Kenya to the northeast, the Indian Ocean to the east, Mozambique and Malawi to the south, Zambia to the southwest, and Rwanda, Burundi, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the west. Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest mountain, is in northeastern Tanzania. The 947,303 square kilometers, Tanzania is the 13th largest country in Africa and the 31st largest in the world. According to latest 2022 national census, Tanzania has a population of nearly 62 million, making it the most populous country on the south of the equator. The Tanzanian economy is heavily based on agriculture. The agriculture accounts for 25% of gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2023. The bulk of its agricultural products, of around 85% of it, are sold at overseas markets. According to Tanzania's 2022 National Irrigation Master Plan, 29.4 million hectares land are suitable for irrigation farming. Of this, only 310,745 hectares were being irrigated in June 2011. As of 2021, Tanzania's gross domestic products, or GDP, was an estimated $71 billion, while GDP per capita was $3,574, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. In 2020, the World Bank had declared the upgrade of Tanzania's economy from a low-income to a lower middle-income country, after its gross national income per capita increased from $1,020 in 2018 to $1,080 in 2019. The current president of Tanzania is Samia Suluhu Hassan, sworn in on the 19th of March 2021. She is the first female president of the United Republic of Tanzania, replacing John Magufuli after his death on the 17th of March 2021. Indonesia and Tanzania established diplomatic relations on the 13th of January 1965. The relations between both nations are centered on the agriculture sector, where Indonesia provides training for Tanzanian farmers. In 1996, Indonesia established Farmers Agriculture and Rural Training Center in Mkindo, Morogoro, Tanzania, where Indonesian agriculture experts provide training for Tanzanian farmers. However, because of austerity measures, the program was terminated in 2004. In 2007, Tanzanian Agriculture Minister visited Indonesia, requesting to resume the FARTIS program. In March 2011, Indonesian government reactivated FARTISI. Also in 2011, both countries established Indonesia-Tanzania Joint Agriculture Cooperation Committee, or GACC, as a vehicle to improve agriculture sector cooperation. The bilateral cooperations included capacity building through training, joint research, and the expansion of market access to agricultural products. Indonesia has an embassy in Dar es Salaam, while Tanzania previously only had a non-resident ambassador in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Since 2023, Tanzania has opened an embassy in Jakarta. Both countries are members of multilateral organizations such as World Trade Organization's WTO, the Group of 77, and Non-Aligned Movement. The Indonesian government has expressed interest in creating a preferential trade agreement between the two countries. In 2022, Indonesian exports to Tanzania amounted to 74 million US dollar, led by palm oil and derivatives. Meanwhile, Tanzanian exports to Indonesia amounted to 28 million US dollars, primarily cloves, cocoa, and tobacco.
And that was the country profile of Tanzania. And from this video, we also learned that Indonesia has already provided agriculture training to the Tanzanians since 1965, and then terminated in 2004, but then continued again in 2011. So we are going to talk more about Tanzania and Indonesia's relations later on after we go to the Bogor Palace in West Java, Indonesia, to watch the full coverage of the state visit of the Tanzanian president.
So as we can see that all the personnel and members are getting ready at the Bogor Presidential Palace. Well, now Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan has arrived at the Bogor Presidential Palace, and we see that there are also preparations set and ready for her meeting with Indonesian President Joko Widodo.
At the moment, we can also see President Joko Widodo has been waiting for the Tanzanian President Samia Hassan in front of the Bogor Palace in West Java, Indonesia. Good that today is clear sky and the weather is good as well. So hopefully this is a good sign for the bilateral meetings. So it will be productive as well later on today.
It definitely sets the tone for the meeting as well. So, and this is quite typical of a state visit in which they will be greeted by traditional dancers, attire, and people of the president going into the palace itself. So it's quite a ceremony. And we look at in front of the presidential car, there are also people dressed in traditional Indonesian attire, showcasing our cultural diversity as well.
Yeah. And if you still remember from the visit in August by President Joko Widodo to Tanzania, the Tanzanian presidents and the delegation also showcased their cultural identities from the special attires and also the dancings. And so I guess that this is going to be a sign that both countries are moving forward to a closer relations in the future.
Siap, bisa.
Pratikno, Minister of Foreign Affairs Retno Marsudi, Minister of Health Budi Gunadi Sadikin, Minister of Public Works and Public Housing Basuki Hadi Mulyono, Minister of Investment and Head of Investment Coordinating Board Bahlil Lahadalia, Ambassador to Tanzania Triyogo Jatmiko, and Director General of Asia Pacific and Africa, Ministry of Foreign Affairs Abdur Kadil Jailani.
And now the President of the Republic of Indonesia, President Joko Widodo, is greetings the delegations from Tanzania, Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Minister of State Planning and Investment, Minister of State, President's Office, Labor, Economy and Investment of Zanzibar. And then there's also Ambassador of Tanzania to Indonesia.
Currently, we're entering the photo session of President Samia Hassan as well as President Joko Widodo.
And now, the President of Tanzania is signing the guest book of the Bogor Palace in West Java, Indonesia. After this, the agenda is tree planting ceremony.
The tree planting ceremony is quite pivotal to state bilateral visits, as it has always been done from other state leaders. And the specific trees and plants that are chosen are also curated and specific to the relationship of the two countries. But before that, we have another photo session at the balcony of the Bogor Presidential Palace. enter into a tree planting ceremony. It is quite symbolic.
In one island. Okay. So what are we doing here? Putting the soil in there.
So both presidents would then shovel and be able to put soil into the tree that has been chosen. For every state visit, it would be a different tree and plant that are chosen. And it is truly a symbolic gesture to show how the relationship of both countries can continue to nurture and grow as the trees grow as well.
So the tree is called Pohon Perdamaian or peace tree. So this is also a symbolic movement that both countries will develop peaceful relations in the future.
The Latin name of the tree is Baritonia asiatica. And we do hope that this sets a great tone and ambience for the meeting later on today, in which it will turn out to be peaceful as well as continue the growth of the relationship between Indonesia and Tanzania.
And now both leaders are moving towards the next agenda, which is tete-a-tete or veranda talk. The veranda talk will take place at the balcony of the Bogor Presidential Palace in West Java, Indonesia. Okay, as you can see at the moment, the presidents, the two leaders from both countries are having a talk. We can see that the conversations is going lively. So there are a lot of things that probably is going to be talked about during the bilateral meeting that will take place after the veranda talk. So this veranda talk will set the tone for the bilateral meetings after this. So Mas Habib, what kind of topics that probably will be talked during this meeting?
I suppose President Jokowi also shares his view about the election in Indonesia, because Indonesia is an election, and a very call about Indonesia's social cooperation, one of the agenda that we also shared with Tanzania also about democracy. So it was one of the programs we, during Yudhoyono's presidency, we helped Tanzania to understand about, the election process and so on and so forth. I think like there was also the discussion between the two leaders, I suppose. And other than that, also about the agriculture, you mentioned previously about, Indonesia's import from Tanzania, for example. It is still highly concentrated on three commodities, including cloves, tobaccos. Actually, yes, Tanzania is already a part of Indonesia's supply chain for tobacco industry, but I think we can see more. I think it's still, punching below its weight in terms of the bilateral cooperation between two countries.
Okay, maybe we can also ask Pa Alex. Pa Alex, are you there?
Yes, Valerie.
Okay, so we were talking about what kind of topics that will be talked about during the veranda talks and also the bilateral meetings later on this afternoon. We also mentioned about the South-South cooperation, the topic that was talked during the debate previously. So do you think the South-South cooperation will be also be the main topics of this conversation?
Yes, I believe that Indonesia wants to demonstrate to its guests that Indonesia will continue to play as a leader in the global South. Yeah, not only by going back to the past memories of its diplomatic achievement back in 1960s, but how Indonesia tries to substantiate its diplomatic leadership among the global South by leading by example, to how Indonesia has recovered from the pandemic and how Indonesia has managed to be part of G20, and but still Indonesia needs to to consolidate its economic relations with Africa, knowing that this continent is full of potentialities. Yeah, not only its natural resources, but also its youth population. Yeah, to be a source of demand for Indonesian commodities in the future. So I believe that there is indeed a momentum in the bilateral economic cooperation between the two countries, and I hope that this visit by Tanzanian president will be used to to increase what they can do in the future, and what the private sector in Indonesia can take advantage out of this bilateral cooperation, because now the governments are ready to go higher in their achievement in the bilateral cooperation, and it is up now to the private sector of the two countries how to utilize all the incentives, all the the facilities that the two countries managed to agree from this bilateral talk today.
Mm. And one of the symbolic events that just happened just now, Professor, is the tree planting ceremony, which is what is regularly done whenever there is a bilateral state visit from any country to Indonesia, especially the Bogor Presidential Palace. And the tree that was planted today was the tree of peace, or pohon perdamaian. It's quite interesting thing because Indonesia and Tanzania has had a long-standing relationship, as Tanzania is also newly independent after Indonesia. How do you think both countries, now knowing that's the tree that they chose to plant, can work together in order to achieve peace as well as maintaining that peace?
Countries same page, how countries in the global south can play a positive role in building a peaceful global order that is now disturbed by all these wars and conflicts in Europe, in the Middle East. Indonesia and Tanzania can contribute a lot in order to build world peace, especially among the global south, because the two countries play very important role in their respective regions. And in Indonesia, Indonesia has demonstrated its leadership in ASEAN, and also the same thing in East Africa. Tanzania has played a very positive role. So when the two countries can, synergize, yeah, in order to contribute more to world peace, they can contribute a lot on the basis of the historical richness of the diplomatic relations, and also the willingness of the governments to utilize all the opportunities that they have. So, for instance, Indonesia can be, a gate for Tanzania to deep to build deeper relations with ASEAN, and the same thing that Tanzania can also serve as our gate to more cooperation with Africa, knowing that we have been left behind compared to our neighbors.
Okay, let's go back to your previous comments about how Indonesia is considerably late compared to other ASEAN nations in approaching the African continents. So
Yeah.
after today's state visit, what can you suggest to be done, more robust from Indonesian side?
Yeah, I think we need to substantiate more our leadership, not by capitalizing too much on the historical memories of the past. It's a good thing to do that, but that's not enough. Global leadership today is based more on the domestic material basis of your diplomacy. And so you see that the two governments are ready to go to the higher level in various sectors of the economy. And this is a good beginning for Indonesia and also for Tanzania, because you see that they are aware of the economic opportunities that they can offer to each other. And that is good for Indonesia as well, as Indonesia also has claimed to be a leader or representative of developing countries in multilateral forum like G20. And we need to demonstrate our leadership by good examples, by demonstrating to the world and to our guests our problem solving capacity inside the country for our economic problems, social, political problems, by combining our democracy and economic growth. See, Indonesia can be a good role model for other developing countries, in which you can combine nicely between democracy to manage your diversity of your population, but at the same time, you also demonstrate clear achievement in economic growth. So that is the basis of our international leadership and need to be strengthened. Yeah, despite
Okay.
all the difficulties and the problems we still have in Indonesia, but Indonesia needs to really substantiate its leadership, yeah, by our real efforts to solve our own problems inside the country.
Not so much on the historical side, but more towards concrete cooperations. Do you also agree with
Right.
that, Mas
Yeah.
Habib?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Pa Alex just said. The world has changed, actually. In the past, Indonesia used to have this capital, diplomatic capital, which is convening power. We organized or we conducted this Asian African Forum back in 1955. We also, in several years before, before this year, we also organized Indonesia Africa Forum, Indonesia Africa Infrastructure Development Dialogue, something like that. But now I think every single country in the world is also looking for investment. It's looking for like economic opportunities to grow and to thrive because of what? Because I think like developed countries at the moment are also like facing problems, you know, with their own domestic issues. As such, they cannot provide investment to other countries in the global south. And I mean, like fellow global south now also looking for each other. I mean, like to support and to gather like more economic opportunities. And let me just also add like what Pa Alex mentioned earlier. I think, you know, when we conduct these bilateral relations, especially between Indonesia and you know, Tanzania, we should look for like five things or five elements. First, mobility of goods, mobility of services, mobility of people, mobility of investment, also like mobility of capital. And at the moment, I think we are just dependent or like concentrated on mobility of goods. I mean, like doing the trade, not so much exploring about mobility of people. We know that Tanzania has very beautiful landscape and also like scene. Probably like more Indonesians will visit Tanzania in the future, and so that's the other way around. So I think like this is you know, the thing we should look forward, and also like it is a responsibility or probably like a task for Indonesian government to also introduce or to share about Tanzania like to the whole public. And also like Tanzania is should do like public diplomacy like to Indonesian population, so the country is getting more awareness, you know, in the eyes of public.
So, well, there are other aspects of this diplomacy that are still yet unexplored. I guess, with Indonesia and Tanzania, which hopefully today, like you said, with those five mobilities, they can start to implement that in the bilateral cooperation today. Yeah. Well, we are so excited to still be talking with you, Mas Habib, as well as Professor Aleksius, but we'll be back after a short break only on TVR World. Stay tuned.
Samia Suluhu Hassan is the first female president of Tanzania, assuming office on March 19, 2021, following the death of previous president John Magufuli. Samia is the sixth president of Tanzania. Before being elected as president, she served as Tanzania's first female vice president, following the 2015 general election and re-elected to a second term in 2020. Her previous roles in government include serving as Minister of State in the Vice President's office responsible for Union Affairs from 2010 to 2015 and Minister in the semi-autonomous government of her home region of Zanzibar from 2000 to 2010. Samia Suluhu Hassan has a background in public administration and economics. In 1986, she obtained a diploma in public administration from the Institute of Development Management, or IDM, now known as Zumbe University. In 1994, she earned a postgraduate diploma in economics at the University of Manchester in United Kingdom. In 2015, she obtained master's degree or MSc in Community Economic Development through a joint program between the Open University of Tanzania and the Southern New Hampshire University, United States. Her political career began in the early 2000s when she was elected as member of the Zanzibar House of Representatives for a special seat and appointed as minister by President Amani Karume. Over the years, she gained experience in different capacities, contributing to her eventual rise to the vice presidency.
Indonesia and Tanzania have been witnessing a remarkable strengthening of their bilateral relations since the two countries established their diplomatic relations. The deep-rooted friendship between Indonesia and Tanzania extends beyond the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1964 and can be traced back to the historic Asia-Africa Summit in 1955 and the founding of the Non-Aligned Movement in 1961. On June 22, 2023, Tanzania opened its embassy in Jakarta, a year before the two countries celebrated the 60th anniversary of their diplomatic relations. The embassy's inauguration took place during Tanzanian's senior diplomat Stergomena Tax's visit to Indonesia. Tax and her Indonesian counterpart Retno Marsudi also inaugurated the embassy shortly after a bilateral meeting at the latter's office. Indonesia first established diplomatic relations with Tanzania in 1964. According to the Foreign Affairs Ministry's official website, Indonesia opened its diplomatic representative in Tanzanian city of Dar es Salaam that year. The significance of the relationship between Indonesia and Tanzania was marked by the visit of President Joko Widodo to the country in August 2023. The Indonesian president visited Tanzania as a part of its trips to several African countries. During the visit, President Jokowi met with Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan to discuss several bilateral cooperation areas and to sign a memorandum of understanding to further promote bilateral cooperation. President Samia Hassan also mentioned during the meeting that the relationship between the two countries has deep historical roots. The founders of both countries, namely Mwalimu Julius Nyerere and President Sukarno, based the relationships on the spirit of Bandung. During his visit to Tanzania, President Jokowi pushed for the establishment of Preferential Trade Agreement or PTA, and this is seen as being able to further optimize the potential trade between the two countries. The bilateral trade between the two countries continues to increase from year to year. During the period between 2019 and 2022, the bilateral trade increased by 50%, reaching over $340. With the improved relations, Indonesia intends to export some other goods such as rubber tire, fertilizers, foods, and beverages. Indonesia's outbound investment in Tanzania also began to increase. PT Indeso Aroma, for instance, plans to expand its field distillation unit in Zanzibar and in mainland such as Tanga area, while state-owned company Pertamina also seeks to expand its presence and acquire majority shares in Mnazi Bay Block operation through its subsidiaries Morel and Prom. Hopefully, with the visit of Tanzanian president to Indonesia, the bilateral relations will continue to flourish and Tanzania will become Indonesia's major trading partner in Africa. The name Tanzania was created as a clipped compound of the names of two states that were unified to create the country Tanganyika and Zanzibar. Tanzania borders Uganda to the north, Kenya to the northeast, the Indian Ocean to the east, Mozambique and Malawi to the south, Zambia to the southwest, and Rwanda, Burundi, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the west. Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest mountain, is in northeastern Tanzania. The 947,303 square kilometers, Tanzania is the 13th largest country in Africa and the 31st largest in the world. According to latest 2022 national census, Tanzania has a population of nearly 62 million, making it the most populous country on the south of the equator. The Tanzanian economy is heavily based on agriculture. The agriculture accounts for 25% of gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2023. The bulk of its agricultural products, of around 85% of it, are sold at overseas markets. According to Tanzania's 20 2022 National Irrigation Master Plan, 29.4 million hectares land are suitable for irrigation farming. Of this, only 310,745 hectares were being irrigated in June 2011. As of 2021, Tanzania's gross domestic products or GDP was an estimated 71 billion US dollars, while GDP per capita was 3,574 US dollar, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. In 2020, the World Bank had declared the upgrade of Tanzania's economy from a low-income to lower middle-income country, after its gross national income per capita increased from 1,020 US dollars in 2018 to 1,080 US dollars in 2019. The current president of Tanzania is Samia Suluhu Hassan, sworn in on the 19th of March 2021. She is the first female president of the United Republic of Tanzania, replacing John Magufuli after his death on the 17th of March 2021. Indonesia and Tanzania established diplomatic relations on the 13th of January 1965. The relations between both nations are centered on the agriculture sector, where Indonesia provides training for Tanzanian farmers. In 1996, Indonesia established Farmers Agriculture and Rural Training Center in Mkindo, Morogoro, Tanzania, where Indonesian agriculture experts provide training for Tanzanian farmers. However, because of austerity measures, the program was terminated in 2004. In 2007, Tanzanian Agriculture Minister visited Indonesia, requesting to resume the FARTIS program. In March 2011, Indonesian government reactivated FARTISI. Also in 2011, both countries established Indonesia-Tanzania Joint Agriculture Cooperation Committee or GACC as a vehicle to improve agriculture sector cooperation. The bilateral cooperations included capacity building through training, joint research, and the expansion of market access to agricultural products. Indonesia has an embassy in Dar es Salaam, while Tanzania previously only had a non-resident ambassador in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Since 2023, Tanzania has opened an embassy in Jakarta. Both countries are members of multilateral organizations such as World Trade Organization's WTO, the Group of 77, and Non-Aligned Movement. The Indonesian government has expressed interest in creating a preferential trade agreement between the two countries. In 2022, Indonesian exports to Tanzania amounted to 74 million US dollar, led by palm oil and derivatives. Meanwhile, Tanzanian exports to Indonesia amounted to 28 million US dollars, primarily cloves, cocoa, and tobacco.
are back in conversation. Still, right now, the bilateral meeting is commencing between President Samia Hassan as well as President Joko Widodo. Before that, we touched upon several topics on the bilateral cooperation between both countries. However, there is one topic that is also as important and yet unexplored for both countries, which is tourism. And now we are going to see how this is also big in terms of Tanzania. So the 25th session of the General Assembly will feature the 6th edition of the UNWTO, or World Tourism Organization video competition. And one of them is about the Tanzanian National Park. So why don't we take a look at this next video that explains about the big 5 parks in Tanzania.
And this is Tanzania, the Royal Tour. The president has promised to take me on a safari. Deep down inside the Ngorongoro crater, and the crater is home to more than 25,000 animals.
Wildebeest. Yeah, and zebras.
They're everywhere.
Well, those are the ones who are migrating.
That's the Great Migration. But our real focus today is to try and see all of what's known around here as the Big Five. As we approach, we suddenly see a solitary young male elephant who's obviously been pushed out of the herd to find his own way in the world. Over here?
Have you seen it?
Yep. I see it all right. It's only about 30 or 40 yards from us.
Yeah.
So, do all those buffalo know that these guys are here?
Yeah, but even the lions, they're asking themselves if they should go there.
Wow, that's one big rhino.
Peter, that's the 4th one.
Seeing a black rhinoceros in the wild is almost like seeing a dinosaur. As we move beyond the crater, we suddenly encounter the tallest mammals on Earth, the Maasai giraffe. Suddenly, I caught sight of one of the most elusive creatures in Africa, the leopard. I've done it. I've finally seen all of the Big Five.
Tanzania, unforgettable.
That was the big 5 parks in Tanzania. So the tourism industry in Tanzania is one of the biggest also. Since we were talking about that before the commercial break, now we're going to continue to talk about the tourism with Mas Habib and also Pa Alex. But first, let's go to Mas Habib first. When you talked about tourism sector, so what kind of cooperation that you think we can develop between the countries?
So I think before we touch upon like what kind of areas of cooperation, I think we need to see like whether there is any enabling factor. Distance, geographical distance could be, you know, between 2 countries are far away, but, you know, actually I just checked, Indonesians can enter like Tanzania using visa-free on arrival. So visa on arrival. So I think like that's a good idea. So I think in terms of areas of cooperation, we can work together. One of them is actually about conservation, diplomacy. Both of us have national parks. Kilimanjaro, we also see like how national parks in Tanzania are very vibrant and also like very interesting. And I think both of our countries can exchange stories and also like best practices in managing like national parks. Other than that, probably looking for investment, whether like any like investors in Indonesia to invest in, you know, in Tanzania, building resorts, something like that. So I think like that's a kind of like a potential area to explore more.
And you touched on a lot of topics which we would like to explore after this, because that's a lot of points in which they can work together as well. I'm wondering for Pa Alex, what are your thoughts on this, especially on the tourism sector between Indonesia and Tanzania? How can it be improved, and in what areas can we collaborate and work together?
I think that we can learn a lot from Tanzania in managing our national park in order to, to gain more economic benefit, how to attract more visitors or tourists to Indonesia. And if you see in the wider context of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, has been blessed in many ways in terms of our the beauty of our nature, and but we haven't explored it to its uh, optimal utilization. And in this case, I think we can learn a lot from Tanzania, because if you compare the visitors that come to Indonesia compared to other Southeast Asian countries, I think we also are left behind in terms of the number of visitors every year. Uh, so, in the field of how to manage our national parks, I hope that Indonesia can work together with Tanzania. Yeah, how to manage our national parks. Like in Labuan Bajo, we have this Komodo dragon, but still we are still at the very early stage of how to economize it. And you see that at the end of the day, yeah, the success of all this cooperation is contingent upon the creativity of the people, the vibrant spirit of the people, and the government has to facilitate it. As you can see that the president of Tanzania herself drives the car, yeah, in order to to explain all the heritage of the nature in Tanzania. And we want to see the same spirit, the same synergy between the government and the people in Indonesia, how to you manage all these national park, the beauty of Indonesian nature, the beauty of its people, and we can use all this as our soft power, as we call it in international relations. Yeah, the power of attraction. Yeah, how to attract people from outside to visit Indonesia. And I don't think that we should be left behind any longer. We need to be at the top of it, considering the richness of our nature and the richness of the people. We Indonesians are smiling people, and that is our soft power. Yeah, to attract visitors from outside.
Yes, and it's quite interesting because soft power or soft diplomacy, if we can learn from history, is that it is not to be undermined, because it can really bring a lot of strength to the relationship between both countries. And in particular, about what do you think we can do for the conservation efforts of both countries? Because from the video before, we saw that Tanzania has many wild animals, such as the rhinos, which in Indonesia is also lacking, I would say, or a lot of the conservation efforts on those have been put very strongly. Do you think in the future that is something that we can also put in the agenda of the bilateral relationship between us, is that knowledge sharing or educational sharing between both countries on how to conserve these wild animals?
Okay, Audrey, you see that that is what we need from our African friends, yeah, how they conserve their nature and all the beauty of all these animals. And because we are so rich in the beauty of our nature, we tend to take it for granted, yeah, and we don't really conserve it as our African friends have done for their the richness of their nature. And so you see, I hope in the future that we can work together with our African friends to optimize, yeah, the result, the gain, economic gain of our nature, because we have been blessed by the beauty of our nature in Indonesia with all this diversity, biodiversity, yeah,
Indeed, indeed.
and
And
it is the people themselves, not only the government, but the people has to be active in using it and using it wisely, yeah, in order to conserve
the richness of our nature.
Yes, that's true. And currently, we have visuals, and talking about people and their active roles, we have visuals from the Bogor Presidential Palace in which the people have been in a meeting who are active in this role between their bilateral relationships. And we will soon see the results of the meeting that just ended. There will be most likely a summary of the meeting or a signing of the MOU. So currently we have visuals from the palace as we are waiting for the agreement between Indonesia and Tanzania.
So we also see the ministers from Indonesia, because previously we're talking about tourism, but we, now the presidents are entering the joint press statement.
His Excellency, Mr. Joko Widodo, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Her Excellency, Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on our first agenda, presenting the pre-signed Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of the Republic of Indonesia and the Government of the United Republic of Tanzania as follows. 1. Memorandum of Understanding on Diplomatic Capacity Building Cooperation. 2. Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the Field of Agriculture. 3. Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the Mineral Sector. And 4, Memorandum of Understanding on Development of Blue Economy through Marine Affairs and Fisheries Cooperation. We kindly invite the Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Her Excellency, Madame Retno Marsudi, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation of the United Republic of Tanzania, the Honorable Mr. January Yusuf Makamba, who will present one of the pre-signed memorandums of understanding symbolically. Excellencies, you may kindly return to your settings. To present the letter of intent on investment, promotion, and facilitation between the Government of the Republic of Indonesia and the United Republic of Tanzania by the respective ministers. Minister for Investment of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Bahlil Lahadalia, and the Minister for State President Office Planning and Investment of the United Republic of Tanzania, the Honorable Professor Kitila Mkumbo. Thank you, Excellencies. You may kindly return to your settings. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the presentations of the memorandums of understandings and letter of intent has concluded. May these agreements contribute to the deepening and strengthening of the partnership between our two esteemed nations. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we proceed to the next agenda, the joint press statement. We kindly invite to deliver the first remark, the President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency, Mr. Joko Widodo.
Yang Mulia Presiden Samia Suluhu Hassan dan delegasi. Persahabatan Indonesia dan Tanzania semakin diperkuat hari ini dengan kunjungan Presiden Samia ke Indonesia, di mana kami telah sepakat untuk terus mengisi dengan kerjasama konkret di berbagai bidang. Dan tahun ini Indonesia akan menyelenggarakan Indonesia-Afrika Forum yang kedua untuk memperkuat kerjasama selatan-selatan di mana Tanzania menjadi salah satu mitra utamanya. Dalam pertemuan tadi kami telah membahas beberapa hal. Yang pertama terkait perdagangan. Preferential Trade Agreement akan dibentuk untuk meningkatkan perdagangan dan peluncuran negosiasinya dimulai tahun ini. Yang kedua terkait investasi, komitmen kerjasama bidang migas terus diperkuat dan Pertamina telah memperluas kerjasama di Nasibe serta pelatihan pegawai TPDC juga sudah dimulai. Ke depan Indonesia mengharapkan negosiasi antara Medco Energi untuk kerjasama LNG dan rencana investasi ESA di bidang pupuk dapat segera terrealisasi. Saya juga telah menyampaikan pentingnya pembentukan bilateral investment treaty untuk perlindungan investasi dua negara. Yang ketiga terkait kerjasama pembangunan, Indonesia berkomitmen meningkatkan kerjasama, revitalisasi Farmers Agriculture and Rural Training Center di Morogoro, pelatihan SDM bidang migas dan pertanian, dan penerapan nasional single window system. Yang keempat terkait kesehatan. Perusahaan farmasi Indonesia telah berkomitmen untuk memenuhi kebutuhan medis di Tanzania, sehingga telah saya sampaikan pentingnya penjajakan intensif antara BPOM Republik Indonesia dengan Tanzania Medicines and Medical Authority untuk percepatan registrasi produk farmasi. Terakhir, terkait situasi di Gaza, kedua negara memiliki kesamaan posisi dan akan terus berkoordinasi untuk mendukung perjuangan bangsa Palestina. Demikian yang dapat saya sampaikan. Selanjutnya dengan hormat saya mengundang Presiden Samia untuk menyampaikan pernyataannya. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President Widodo, for the cordial reception and warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation since our arrival in this green city of Jakarta. The relations between Tanzania and Indonesia have a rich history. Our founding fathers, the late Mwalimu Nyerere and President Sukarno, laid a strong foundation for these relations. Subsequent generations of leaders have continued to cement our bilateral relations, building on this foundation. Recent high-level visits of Jakarta and Dar es Salaam attest not only to our friendship, but also commitment to enhance and advance our bilateral ties to greater heights. As such, on this visit, I'm delighted that President Widodo and I are standing on the great shoulders of our predecessors in nurturing these unique and historic relations. President Widodo summed up almost everything that transpired during our official talks. On my part, I'll touch on a few issues. Apart from being my first visit overseas in 2024, this visit is opportune, timely, and much more significant. This is because this year we are marking 60 years since the establishment of our diplomatic relations. To us, Indonesia has been a friend of all season and all weather because our relation date back to pre-colonial days, and once officiated, it was among the first countries to open its embassy in Tanzania. Our discussion was cordial, mutual, and friendly. We took stock of the implementation status of agreements reached during President Widodo's visit to Tanzania in August 2023, and our emphasis was to ensure effective implementation. We expressed our satisfaction on our bilateral ties and agreed to advance and consolidate the excellent relations that so happily exist between our two countries. We also insisted on the need to continue to use multilateral fora to solve global challenges. On trade and investment, both President Widodo and myself attach great importance to promoting bilateral investment between our two countries. And this is why later on today, I will participate in the Indonesia-Tanzania Business and Investment Forum. The forum will bring together our two business community, government officials, and other stakeholders from our two countries. On our part, we'll highlight the trade and investment potentials and opportunities available in Tanzania. My mantra to the private sector, to the private sector partners is, the best time to invest in Tanzania was 2 years ago, but the second best time is now. On cooperation in energy, we took note on the recent developments, including the concluded agreement between Tanzania Petroleum and Development Corporation and Petamina. I thank President Widodo for his leadership on this matter, and I believe that this agreement will open more doors to Indonesian investors in the energy sector in Tanzania. We further expressed our readiness to harness Indonesian experience through collaboration and investment in the renewable energy to leapfrog development in this sector, which has abundant and lucrative potential. This morning, President Widodo and I also did some tree planting as reaffirmation of our shared commitment to building a safer planet. In global conservation on protecting our environment, Tanzania continues to underscore the access to clean and safer cooking fuels and technologies. Access to clean cooking fuel not only empowers our community, but also protects our trees. As such, aware of the strides Indonesia has made to promote clean cooking practices, we agreed to work more closely and share experiences with Indonesia in support of clean cooking solutions in Africa. Talking on blue economy, our discussions also looked at cooperation in the blue economy sector, and this is an unexploited sector in Tanzania. And I informed my colleague on the deliberate policies and measures that my country has put in place aimed at harnessing the full potential of this sector. Given its wealth of experience and advancement in this arena, we have concluded an MOU with Indonesia to deepen our cooperation in this sector, as we all witnessed. As I conclude, Mr. President, I wish to thank you for your invitation to me to visit your beautiful country. I also wish to say terima kasih for the opportunity to advance our rich ties for the benefit of our people. I hope after retirement you will be able to visit Tanzania as a tourist to experience our scenic tourist sites. I'll be happy to host you in my tiny village in the Spice Islands of Zanzibar. Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the head of states have concluded their joint press statement. The President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Joko Widodo, and the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Her Excellency Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan, will now proceed to the Garuda Hall for the official state banquet, followed by the members of the official delegation.
Okay, well, now the joint press statement has concluded from Tanzanian President Samia, as well as Indonesian President Joko Widodo. And it's after seeing that statement, I wonder what our guests think, especially from their remarks. Do you have any kind of like closing remarks? So now we've seen the joint press statement, we've seen what aspects, factors they want to continue to explore and strengthen in their relationship. What are your thoughts on this first, Mas Habib?
One, I think I want to highlight what Madam Tanzanian President said, that Indonesia is a friend of all seasons and all weathers to Tanzania. I think that this is a high trust that put in Indonesia. As such, we also need to, quoting what Pa Alex said, substantiating like the trust with investment and so on and so forth. And we are also expecting the two leaders say that the preferential trade agreement and also like bilateral investment treaty will be negotiated starting from this year. So we hope like this will be finished, will be finished as soon as possible, because this is very critical for the two countries. But beyond that, I think like very unfortunate that we can explore actually like other areas of cooperation, like more practical, like for example, tourism, as we discussed earlier. We see like from the Indonesian side, so many, I think like a few ministers coming like to this event. I hope in the future, like in the next administration, we can probably like follow up and also like explore other areas of cooperation. I think I'm gonna stop there.
So it's a hopeful note as well for the future. Thank you. Okay, and now going to Professor Aleksius Jemadu. From seeing the remarks, the joint press statement, what are your thoughts on it as well? And to wrap up as a final statement, Pak.
Yeah, you see, Audrey, that there are three important actors here. First, the government, the state enterprise, and the private sector. Now, the government has done its job, by preparing all these documents of agreements, and it is up to the state enterprise, Pertamina, and also our private companies, to take advantage out of all that has been agreed by the two governments. And that is the real challenge, They need to, to increase their capacity to compete with other ASEAN countries in Southeast Asia, taking the advantage of our bilateral relations with all these African countries, especially Tanzania in this case, knowing that there are still potentials that need to be explored, and we need to do our homework at home, our capacity to compete, our human resources, technology, and also management, creativity in building our access to African market. Those are the homeworks that need to be done, and the institutional platform has been prepared by the government. It is now the private sector and the Indonesian people, how to use all these opportunities for the benefit of the two nations.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Professor Aleksius Jemadu, for your statement, and thank you so much for coming on TVR World and sharing with us as well.
Thank you, Audrey.
All right. So I guess this is the time to wrap up of the special reports on the state visit of the Tanzanian president today at the Bogor Presidential Palace with Java, Indonesia. So finally, I would like to thank our guest again, Mas Habib, and also Pa Alex for joining us today. So, and finally, I am Valina Daniel.
And I'm Audrey Toyo. Thank you so much for watching Special Report on TVR World, and we will see you next time. For now, goodbye.